First of all, a very good afternoon to all the panelists, Komaran sir, and the students. And I welcome you all in this webinar of building information modeling. And as we all are aware that it is becoming essential to ensure the planning, design, and construction of buildings. And the purpose of this webinar is to make students aware of the basics and practical applications of this technology in real-time designing and development. And we are really very thankful to Mr. Kumaran Tamil Rasan, BIM project manager from Pinnacle Infotech, who is here with us as the technical expert for today's session under the Industry Institute Interaction activity at Purnima Group. And I would like to introduce Mr. Kumaran today. Mr. Kumaran completed his graduation from Annamalai University. Mr. Kumaran is a BIM technologist with over more than 7 years of experience in managing BIM, coordination and design reviews. He is managing all the BIM design and build operations over a wide range of projects. He is developing and managing clear BIM execution plans, BIM implementation strategies, and BIM technologies for active projects. Once again, we heartily welcome you, sir, for this session. And I would like you to take over the session now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful introduction of me. And what we are going to see today is all about the building information modeling and what is the purpose of the building information modeling inside the construction industry, and what are all the possible outcomes that we are going to ensure for the smooth flow of construction in upcoming decades. So what we are going to see today is what is BIM and what is the definitions of the BIM, where does the BIM originated and when it has been originated, necessity of the BIM and benefits of the BIM, various dimensions of the BIM, BIM maturity at in what way model gets matured during the stages of the construction from conceptual stage to the execution stage, and international BIM standards and level of development in the BIM and the BIM users as well. Let's start with what is a BIM. So BIM, mostly what the people think is all about. BIM means it is a software, one particular software where we used to generate a 3D model, but it is not as the same manner. BIM is a building information modeling and it is a process. It's not a particular software. And why we are utilizing that process, it's to extract the data from the model and collecting the information and managing that information into the database to the entire life cycle of the project until its demolition as well. So moving further, what are all the useful complexities and the BIM utilization? So as you see, the visual thing, what you can able to understand by BIM is hidden things are very, how to say, hidden things are in such a way thermal studies. For example, for if I'm going to a 3D model, 3D visualization, okay, previously we are working on to the 2D platforms where used to generate a designs in AutoCAD and MicroStations as well. Later we developed the drawings into the 3D platform. By getting into the 3D platform, what are all the things we can extract the information? For example, if it is a 2D platform, we can extract the information such as area and length and the width, all the two-dimensional scenarios. But onto the 3D platform, we can extract the data such as quantities, and then what is the property of that particular material, and what is the thermal resistant, what is the fire resistant, and all other supporting data we can expect. And we can study as well. This is happens when the project has been initiated. During the design phase of the project, we can conduct a thermal studies on the prototype. For example, before it goes for the construction, based on the sun orientation and month-wise and the day-wise solar studies, we can analyze the building and we can propose a solution for the energy efficient things as well. Lighting studies, structural analysis, what we used to prepare using the StatPro, ETAB and SAP softwares. Constructability review. So since people from colleges, we are not integrated approach towards the construction, because we used to study in an isolated manner. For example, we used to study only about the walls, steels, and concretes as well. We didn't study, have a chance of study integratedly along with HVAC systems, AHUs, and mechanical accessories and other building equipments as well. So when you install all those equipments onto a building, so you have to review it whether the equipment will serve the purpose when it is placed in the particular instance of the building. So all those constructability reviews can be done. Prefabrication, this usually happens with the tilt-up construction, what we call it as precast wall panels, where the wall panels and columns and footings are fabricated somewhere else in the factories, prefabrication factories, and later it has been transported to the site for the construction. Now, when we go for the asset tracking, what is the concept of asset tracking? So it comes under the management of the particular asset inside the building environment. For example, uh, in a commercial building, let me say there are fire sprinklers and smoke detectors and other security devices such as security cameras and other stuff, other stuff as well. So what this asset tracking used to do is, for example, if you have 3,000 to 4,000 smoke detectors in the entire very big building, so you don't know where that asset gets failure and who is the manufacturer of that asset, what is the durability time, reliable time of the asset, so we can purchase for the warranty and other supporting documents. So what BIM used to do is, it collect the information inside the model, means the data has been fed to the particular instance, for example smoke detector. So we used to feed the data inside the BIM model, what is the brand and who is the supplier, what is the reliability time up to which how much years it will sustain without any repair, and where it is placed inside the building. So once that particular instance got failure, this asset management system, what we call it as COBE, Constructional Building Operations Exchange. It is a database of managed in a Excel format, and later this database is merged with the PLC and SCADA system, where you can monitor by sitting inside a monitoring room. When the devices got failed, this indicates to that monitors that this device got failed, and at what location it has been failed, and what is the warranty time. So you can directly go to the vendor and ask for the repairing and other solutions as well. And later we go for laser scanning. So laser scanning, coming to the point, it is a very wonderful thing where, and it's advanced technology as well. It's quite costlier, where the laser scans, for example, the instrument look like a theodolite or total station. But the purpose of this laser scan is to uh, scan the site or as well as the building and collect the laser points. Laser points in the sense you will virtually see the building skeletal structure wherever the building has been exposed to this laser scans. And later it brought into the Revit software or some other softwares, ecosim such as software. Later we can check the model whether our drawing, which was submitted to the site, and the site construction both are aligned together, and the construction is going on the proper manner without any flaws. So for this is the purpose to manage the tracking of the construction, because we used to sit here in India, Jaipur, and we used to execute the buildings over the multinational levels, for example in UK and Japan as well. So it's typical, we can't able to go and visit each and every time to collect those data, how with the way it is constructed in the Japan. So what we used to do from Japan, people used to scan the scan that building, and then they send to us in a software format. We will import that scan into our software platform. Later we will merge the model what we have created and executed the shop drawings, and we will cross check it. This is one purpose. Another one purpose is to renovate the heritage buildings. For example, in Jaipur, all the heritage structures are already scanned under the government, and all the 3D models has been produced. This is to uh, conserve the data. For example, in future, any natural calamities or disaster happens and the building gets collapsed, we can renovate it in a very quicker manner and we have the particular document on our hand. So field BIM is the other thing, which was literally same as the laser scanning, and where the people used to take iPads and other portable devices. They used to merge, they used to work with the BIM 360, which is a cloud platform. It means it doesn't require any local servers to place your models, where the only isolated teams can work onto the models. Means people on the site who is having any tab or Apple AirBook, they can directly interact with the site and they can coordinate with the site. They can comment it. I need furniture to be shifted 5 meters apart this passage or something, and it is instantly reflected all the stakeholders. For example, the vendor and the structural contractors and the architects. Everyone will be intimated. Those who are onto the BIM 360 platform. So moving on to the next slide. When does this BIM originated? BIM originated as the way the computer environment has been developed day by day. So the first BIM is all around 1987, which was ArchiCAD, and which was the first company to launch a 3D platform to model the building environment. Later, Autodesk taken over all the things. Now the major companies which is working on the BIM origins and they are supporting the building information modeling is Autodesk, and then Trimble is there, and MicroStations, Ecosim, or the major use softwares inside the virtual building environment. So what is the necessity of the BIM? Visually, if your building going to be constructed and you can construct a prototype, you can develop a prototype onto your local PC and you can review it. So rework cost, demolition cost of the building due to the mistakes and the errors is obviously reduced. And the second thing is, as the way you go, you can have a powerful suggestions. For example, for the energy analysis, for the material suggestions, based on the studies what you have prepared in this prototype, thermal studies, selection of facades, and selection of curtain panels, what is the thermal efficiency, all those energy analysis studies gives the output in which what are all the optimizing the energy efficiency of the building. And later, maintenance of the building. Maintenance of the building, let us take it to the broader picture. So if it is a residential building, so we can construct within a year. So all the data is easy to manage the data within that residential building, because only very few members will be worked over it, and everyone, all the parties will be in the local regions. We can contact and get the information of those things. Let us take it to the broader picture where we are working on the metro rail projects, which goes for 12 to 13 years as a long run, as a segment by segment. So when it comes for the projects more than 4 years on a continuous construction phase, what happens? The manpower engagement, the resource engagements are supposed to be changed. For example, the project managers might be changed on the cycle of the project. Second, that the vendors might be changed on the cycle of the project. And all the informations are subjected to change, and you have to maintain the database properly. If it is not maintained, you will lack of the information for the future. For example, today item, for example, AHU has been repaired. So if you don't have that the vendor data, what is the load calculation of that particular AHU, and what is the supplier specification, warranty, all those details, you can't able to maintain it. Either you have to run to collect the details, which will take so much of time. So as a way, it will reduce the maintenance cost and the rework cost, and the BIM also supports the construction management, means the project construction management team, in terms of life status of the site and where we are lagging while compared to the project baseline. For example, you can get the status of the site at any instance in a 3D manner, where the elements are highlighted in different colors. Where the construction goes in a proper manner according to the timeline, it will highlight in green. Where the construction has been lagged, it may highlight in a different color. Let's say it as red. So you can track the project management sequence as well. And that's all for this slide. So the benefits of the BIM, as I discussed earlier, as you see onto the slide, you can visualize the data of ducts, all other services penetrating into the building, reduction of errors. Clash detection is the other one main thing. You can run the clashes onto the buildings and you can identify where the clashes are happening. So you no need to review each and every instance. Once you run the clashes, the report has been generated based on the tolerance, and you can resolve the clashes on the weekly basis, and you can support the construction team that these are all the areas we have been resolved, and it is good for construction. Quantity takeoff is the other thing. Once the model has been prepared, you can take off the quantity. And the major thing is this is the dynamic takeoff. Dynamic in the sense, if the design change happens, for example, let me say the beam size inside the building, it's 500 by 400 mm. Now, based on the design consultant instruction, we have changed the beam sizes. So it automatically reflect on the quantity takeoff. So it is not an isolated one, it is a dynamic one. What are all the changes we are making into the model, all those will be reflecting on the quantity takeoff. 4D constructability is a thing where you check for the timeline along with the project baseline. Means project progress of the construction as the way it goes. 5D is all about cost estimating for the materials and other things. As I said, as an example, facility operations. The operations is the only thing where facility management teams require some data to manage the assets. For example, for cleaning the equipments such as filters of the AHUs, all those things. So what is all about the shared knowledge? When you go for the conventional thing, you have to approach for each and every project stakeholders at any instance of the project to share the information of changes. So when it comes for BIM, BIM is centralized knowledge. Means a common environment of the storage data will be there. So all the changes and the modifications by the project stakeholders will be put into that common data environment where every does it as a live platform, and they can modify their model, change the decisions of the designs according to it. For example, the structural engineer versus the precast fabricator. So we receive the design drawings from the structural consultant, and now we need to split the panels, precast panels. So as an example, when I used to say splitting of the panels, so there are certain criteria you to identify. One is the logistic, where the factory has been located, where the site has been there. What is the distance between those two areas, and what is the maximum tonnage of the road? So the precast size of the precast panel can be allocated. So, and based on the crane lifting capacity as well. So here structural engineer has to provide the thickness of the wall and the length of the wall, and the fabricator need to check for the crane capacity on the site and the logistic, how they are going to transport, what is the optimized width of the wall and the length and the height of the wall, so it can suit into the transportation vehicle. So all these data come to the centralized manner. They will offer the documents into that centralized data. So each and everyone can coordinate lively, and they can execute it in a very effective manner. But in later conventional stages, what happens is this type of environment is not supportable. So this is the centralized knowledge where the BIM happens, and BIM is not limited actually. What happens to the scenario nowadays is implementing the BIM has some challenges in India. Means adopting the BIM has some challenges because uh, we people are quite new to the BIM. Means around 2009, around we are exploring the BIM. But when you go for Italy and other Western countries, they know BIM earlier to us, and they have a very nice IT infrastructure, nice bandwidth of internets and server as well. So recently, for past decade, what happened is the investment of the IT for implementing the BIM. What happens? You have to invest on the servers, the huge cost, and system configuration. Normal PCs with 8 or 6 GB RAM won't support the BIM environment. So what we used to do, at least we used to have a minimum of 16 GB RAM to use to run the softwares and provide the analysis and results as well. So what this BIM 360 is all about, you can purchase a license and your models are placed into the cloud servers. Once you have the license of the BIM 360, regardless where you are, you can log in at anywhere and you can work onto the models. So life cycle of the BIM, at what stage BIM will be implemented, and up to what stage the BIM will be useful for us. So up to my knowledge, BIM is useful to the entire life cycle of the project, not up to the demolition, later after the demolition as well. So as you architects know about the RIBA 8 stages of the building execution, so it's always to implement the BIM at the beginning of the project so you can utilize the maximum benefits of the BIM. So if you execute a project at the beginning uh, with along with the BIM, you can do thermal studies, energy studies, computational fluid dynamics, which used to uh, analyze the airflow over the tall structures, and you can study for the sewer and road. If it is an infrastructure project, you can go for MX road, and you can go for public health sewer analysis as well. When you are planning at the planning stage, the maximum benefits of the BIM can be utilized, and the cost efficient because of the optimized design can be achieved. So when you implement the BIM on the later stages, for example, once the design is freezed and you need to just do the constructability review and prepare drawings and submit to the site, what happens is you can't able to utilize the design benefits of the BIM. So here only you are utilizing the uh, constructability reviews, and it goes for the construction and it gets constructed. At certain points, BIM terminates based on the funds which is allocated of the BIM onto the certain project. Uh, so you can't able to analyze the get the uses of the as-built data, for example, laser scanning and asset management. So BIM is something you can utilize for the entire life cycle of the project, even after the demolition. While you are doing the demolition, so you can identify for blasting engineers, what we call it as demolition engineers, where to keep the blasting devices to get the structures down, what is the impact of the surroundings as well. All those studies can be obtained from this. And if you want to renovate certain portion of the building, keeping the remaining things as existing, those data can be extracted from the BIM model. As the benefits of the BIM, as I already discussed now, the one major thing is claims and litigations. What we use it uh, for example, if there is any judicial circumstances comes, uh, contract document and force majeure happens, means some disaster has been happened and the building has been collapsed. So up to what set of stage the construction has been done and how much legal claims we can make it to happen. All those things can be also be collected, but the benefits with liabilization with the BIM is only 17%, which is quite minimum, but BIM can be utilized as a document-based database for the same. So we can move on for the dimension of the BIM. So what you see as the first point is the point dimension. It is 1D and a vector, which is a line. where you can extract the length of the line only. And when it comes for 3D, you can extract the constructability review of the model. You can extract data such as volume, material, specification, what type of material has been engaged to the particular element, and what is the sustainability, lighting requirements for the building as well. So as the way goes, 4D is regarding the time, project timeline, base timeline, along with the project activity month wise can be extracted. You can easily identify the lag in the project at this month, which are all the activities are lagging, and logistics, site equipment movements can happen along with this. Maximum this 4D BIM, it is used to support the project management facility and seamlessly managing information related to the site status, visualizing the impact of changes undertaken during the entire project life cycle. So when we come for first dimension of the BIM, it's all about cost estimation and budget tracking. So 5D BIM is useful in the cases where the budget analysis and the cost estimation are required from the beginning of any project. It goes without saying that the cost is one of the most important elements associated with the project. 5D BIM enables the project promoters and the owners to analyze the cost that will incur over time in the project activities. So it is maximum used to track the budget of the project. Now, when we come for sixth dimension of the BIM, it's almost about self-sustainability of the building and energy efficiency of the building. So maximum people, for example, LEED certified buildings, all those analysis for the LEED certifications, and it can be easily achieved through this BIM environment. So 60 BIM is all about self-sustainable and the energy efficient of the building over the long run. And you can say it as a carbon footprint as well, carbon footprint of the building, which gives less pollution. So 7D as we is for asset tracking. 7D is not, I have not put it on the presentation. 7D is all about asset tracking and the facility project of the project management throughout the entire life cycle of the project. So what you see here is the maturity of the BIM. It was developed by Bjorn Richards in 2008 to 13. So the level 0 is what they care, and level 1 and 2, it's all about the 3D model, what we are currently, India and all other international continents are under the level 2 BIM only. And it's level 2 BIM, it's all about it's a setting of standard. For example, UK has been implemented the level 2 BIM. Level 2 BIM means everything should be digitalized. Every construction related activities should be digitalized and documented. So someone has to manage the standards of the level 2 BIM in the international standards. For example, what in India we have NBC standard. In the same way, producing a standard for the BIM, UK has taken the initiation step, and they have made BIM mandatory for all the project, whether it is a small scale or large scale. What are all the projects happening in the UK, BIM is mandatory, and they have set the standard. As you scroll on the Google, as you go around publicly available specification, so you can see the codes of the standards as we use for design in India for IS 456 for concrete design. In the same manner, BIM standards are also available. And as you go for level 3 BIM, it's just an illusion because we have not reached level 3 stage of BIM. It means, for example, if I'm saying we are using multiple softwares, for example, Revit, Tekla, each and every software output is different, and interportability of the format of each and every software should be variable. So level 3 BIM is something, whatever the software you use, there will be a common format for the export. If I give a common format, currently we are using IFC as a common format. So that common format supports entire software environment, whoever the supplier, for example, Bentley, Autodesk, or even it may be Trimble. So entire BIM softwares come to the single common point, single file format where they can export, they can link the models together and coordinate and produce a result. So up to now, we are not onto the level 3 BIM since there was a thing in future within 10 or 15 years, we will be landing into the level 3 BIM, which will be highly efficient with uh, nice infrastructure of IT. So these are all the BIM standards, what you're seeing. I'm not aware about the AIA, it was American standard. For PAS standard, I can give a brief. There is a code of part 1192, part 2 of PAS, which explained about the capital project expenditure phase of the project. So it shares us the constructability and roles and responsibility, how many project BIM managers will be there, what is their roles and responsibilities, what is the scope of work required to model in the building. For example, I need only the structural model, regardless the architectural model, all the scope of works and other stuffs will be standardized inside that 1192 part 2. And a common data environment. What is the common protocol? What we are going to share within the project environment with the multiple stakeholders. So part 3, it's focused on operational expenditure, which is majorly on asset management. And part 4, it's a technical practice. There is nothing to say about it. And part 5 is quite interesting because on to the BIM, when you are designing for a very crucial thing such as national security related projects, nuclear power plant, or as well as any atomic focus power plant. So there is a information management comes very secure because data might be corrupted or it can be vulnerable to the hacking. So what is the data security related things which need to be followed for the national security buildings will be explained in the part 5. So moving on to the modeling, which is for the production oriented. So we call it as LOD, level of detail. I'm going to model a building inside the computer environment. So what happens, people used to feed unwanted data into the model, which is not required. So it increases the size of the model. So feeding the unwanted information into the model gives us the confusion why this data has been fed to the model. So what happened, the Smart Build Association has developed the LOD. LOD is a term, level of detailing for a particular element has been there. For example, a column is there as you see on the slide. There is a column has been there. So if you see the LOD 100, it's just a line, a rectangular box and the vertical line. And if you go for the LOD 200, there was a model with approximate shape, size and orientation. And if you go for the LOD 300, the model with precise dimension and the correct position interface with the coordination, what the nearer elements, it will be visible. And you can see the concrete hatches over there. So when you go for LOD 500 for the same particular column, you can see the rebar with the proper sizes and the dimension. So development of the model element on the each and every stages of the project. As the model develops, the information attached to the piece of element as well develops. So some BIM, some clients or owners used to say, I need a model up to 200 just to extract the quantity. For example, it's not an exact quantity, it's probably how much the approximate quantity I need means we can go for LOD 200. You no need to sit and develop the model up to the LOD 400. So on the same way, if you go for the entire detail, a owner or a client might be asking for, I need a LOD 400 model. So since I need to use this project information and I need to manage the assets to the entire life cycle of the building. So your information should be self-sufficient to support throughout the entire life cycle of the building, upcoming 60 years or 70 years. So on that cases, we will model up to LOD 400 or 500. So this is level of development of the examples as you see on the other side. Now, modelly, I have explained geometry wise how the model has been developed on each and every stages of the project. Now we can go for level of information. What is level of information? For example, a particular element is inside the project. I can extract the length, width, height, weight, and the tonnage of that particular element. And if you go for the information, LOI increases maximum around when the level of development of the model is 350. At that stage itself, level of information started increasing. After 350, the level of information started increasing. For example, as you see on the screen, the element properties has been given and project area where this particular element has been located, which zone it is located, area, at what level in the sense at which floor it has been located, who is the originator of that particular element, and the element trade belongs to which one. For example, it belongs to mechanical equipment or electrical equipment or plumbing equipment. So as a base, these things have been developed. The information has been fed up to the model. So asset ID, when you come for asset ID is something what you call it as a barcode or a QR scanned stickers or placed over the equipments. All these informations are converted into the barcode or a QR code. So whenever a facility management member gets into the building, so if he sees the equipment pasted with the sticker of the QR code, he doesn't go to refer the document or Excel or pages, number of pages to extract the detail about this particular element. So he can just scan the QR code on the screen. He can get all the details of that particular element. That is known as the asset management. All this level of information is fed inside the model. Later, these informations are converted into the QR code, and later it is pasted to the particular element. So later we are, as I discussed, moving on to the BIM users. You can see design stage, construction stage, closeout, and operation stage. So whenever you can see the mouse key here, once the construction design stage starts, maximum utilization of the BIM users has been utilized. Once it goes for the construction stage, later if you are trying to utilize the BIM, then you can't able to utilize the usefulness of the analysis over the BIM when you implement the BIM during the construction stage. So these are all the BIM users. Moving on to the further, as you see on the left hand side of my screen, it was a laser scan, and the top of the thing is a laser scanning equipment, and the right one is the model. So what we used to do, we generate the model, we submit the shop drawings, and the left side scan has been captured by use of this laser scanning equipment. Later we can merge the model. We show it here. Now what you are seeing, it's what the reality capture over this slide. So this is a laser scan which is on the bigger picture, and this is actual. When we merge the model according with the BIM related model and the scan, it completely lies over each other. It means the proper and the particular element is been constructed in a proper manner, and it is good to go. And we can assure that the construction is happening properly without any mistakes or errors. So as I said, BIM uses in the coordination as we go for construction analysis of clash detection. For example, your services are clashing with other stuffs or not. You can identify it. This is interference management. This is also related to the clashes, which I will show you lively onto the screen later after this presentation. This is all related about the structural analysis and electrical analysis, as I discussed earlier verbally. Asset management has been done. Yeah. So paperless, this is all about the BIM 360, where your model has been shared with the cloud, and using the portable device such as Mac Airbook or some other devices, you can get the detail. You can do markups over that devices, and you can share it to the cloud, so everyone can get notified by emails that there is a change happen over this document. So you can update the model, and you can change your design options related to it. So there is a virtual reality in the BIM. What we can do is all about once the model has been generated, and for the services, for example, electrical sockets mounted over the wall. So you have to know where is the routing of that services. The socket is here. The remaining pipes and other things will be embedded inside the wall. On that case, you don't know where the routing is happening. If you want to penetrate something, if you want to provide a small cutout over some area, so accidentally you can damage the pipe which was embedded inside the wall. On this type of situations, virtual reality helps, and augmented reality as well helps. Augmented reality in what sense? Once we can scan that power socket, and virtually you can see on your mobile device where the routing has been happening. And meaningless, what was happening nowadays is, I have went through the uh, presentation by David Jones recently in UK. What they are doing is, they are going without any paper or any measurements. They just have a VR glass mounted onto their head, and just go inside directly. They can uh, drill the holes for the plates, because virtually they can see where the columns are supposed to be, where the drilling should be happen. So on that way, BIM helps in a virtual reality and virtually augmented scenario. So now I run through you over the models, so we can have a better idea of what is happening. So as you see on the screen, this is a project. So where this mechanical contractor AHU, where you are seeing, is from somewhere else. He is developing the model, and we used to link our model according to those mechanical contractors, and we used to coordinate all these services which was intended to happen. And sorry, my connection is quite slow. You can see the entire building with all the mechanical services happening, and you can go for the quantifications. You can extract the quantities over here. If you go for quantities, you can extract the quantities for concrete piles, how many piles are there. All this quantity can be extracted inside the same environment. So I can go for door schedule, number of doors, floor schedules, how many floors are there, what is its quantity. You can add it to the field, and you can extract all those data. Moving on to the other side, you can generate an energy analysis report. So this is the model. So I have generated a energy analysis report for this building. So this is energy analysis report for the building, where it shows 159 US dollar per meter square per year. If we follow this specification, this is generated from the model. Once the model has been generated, you can run the energy optimization, which you see on the screen over here, analyze and generate. So you can check over these things. And you can check for the interface management. If you go for example interference check, run interference check, you can check interference with the columns along with the beams, which won't happen, I hope so, over here because model was supposed to be perfect. So you can highlight it where it is clashing, at which area. So you can see this study reports and sun solar studies as well. You can have it. If I switch on the sun path on, so you can study. The solar study also happen and shadow studies can also happen. The other thing for 4D construction sequencing, you can go for this video where it goes. You can see the construction progress over here, the erection and the excavations. Here, since the screen is small, you can't able to see the date and the baseline over here. So as the project cycle goes, you can stop at any instant and you can able to observe what is the status of the project, whether it is going as per the timeline or not. Another one wonderful thing I wish to share with you, which is recently launched by the Autodesk in 2021, which was called it as generative design. Generative design is something, as you see over here, this is a video from the Autodesk, where it will suggest for the design solutions. For example, it will suggest, if you go over here, as you see on the screen, it will suggest for the design solution based on the criteria, shape of the building, what is the airflow and the other stuff. Even you can show for the furniture arrangement where you want the furniture with the maximum window views. When I place the furniture, I can get the view of the window to the wider range. You can go through these things as well. This is a generative design which is done by the data analytics and by the programming, scripting. BIM also nowadays it's getting developed by the programming because you have to require a certain programming knowledge to interact with the BIM to the advanced level of computational designing and interactive designing in the way the design changes according to the criteria what you feed, and it gives the various design options and which is efficient to be utilized. So that's all from my end. I can still have another 50 to 20 minutes for a questioning session.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any questions, students? You can write down your questions in chat box or you can ask it directly.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, firstly, sir, thank you so much for such a wonderful webinar. And I have one question that what is the impact of COVID-19 on BIM sector?
Look, quite a tricky question. I can say all the other industries has been lagging on certain things, but the construction industries never stops. And when it comes for BIM, we doesn't feel any impact on us because we are getting paid as the same way. There is no package drops or something like that. We used to work with the multinational regions. Still, the projects are running, and there is no huge impact on the construction sector. Its impact is there. For example, out of 100%, I can say 15 around because we are working on digital things. Construction progress is still going on, and the projects are running smooth. Impacts are there over UK region only.
Okay, thank you
All
very
the
much,
other
sir.
regions are working normal. We doesn't feel any impact.
So one question, like for the students, what are the things they need to take care if they wish to enter the BIM, or what are the basic minimum required skills or interests which will lead them to decide that they are good for going into BIM sector?
Base is what I can say is it's all about the academic knowledge. You should be strong. The academic knowledge, since it is unidirectional, for example, the syllabus is not an integrated project delivery approach. It's all about people study. When I used to study civil engineering as well, I'm not aware about all these equipments on the integrated approach. So first thing, when you are thinking to enter into the BIM, academically you should be strong with the design knowledge and the practical knowledge what you gained uh, in the institution. Later, application of that knowledge, it's much more important. It's not about the knowledge. The way you apply onto your job profile, that's what matter. And the major thing, BIM is continuously transforming because the software what I learned in 2013 is not same today. So continuous update is required. You can't able to stay static to survive into the market scenario. So continuous knowledge upgradations is required since the uh, packages and softwares are getting updated yearly, and that's the main thing. It's basic knowledge, quite of limited amount of software skill, which used to operate that particular software efficiently, with your practical application, what you gain from your college. That's what important.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I guess we should end the session now. There are no question answer, and your session was itself very informative, sir. Thanks a lot for this wonderful session and sharing in detail the details of BIM and its applications. And I hope the students would have definitely benefited by your session. Thank you for sparing out the time, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
students. Thank you, panelists. Thank you.